Well, welcome everyone to the first episode of Maker Arts DIY podcast. And I am Adam Krutinger, and we have with us
Chaz Vance.
Yes, and we've been talking about doing this for a while and making a podcast like this for people who make things. We do know that there is a very much of a maker community, and we'd like to be a part of that in some way, but we'd also like to expand upon it because I think there's a lot of other artists and people and craftsmen who are seen as makers but wouldn't necessarily call themselves that, which is, I think that's how you might describe yourself
Right.
to an extent, as one who makes something but would not ever probably consider themselves one of the part of the maker community.
I'm driving
as far as being at maker fairs and things like that.
right, and I'm driving at how to gracefully further define, because that's a key. It's a key in anything. Being more accurate. If you're a maker, that has grown, in my opinion, wildly out of proportion, and it doesn't really communicate much.
It has a new meaning now.
Yeah, it's or lost meaning, or it means something, and there's something we need another sort of word, or we need to further understand what it means. You might be a maker in your community, and people, the people that your network, and people think you're incredible at doing this or doing that, and that can change when you go out into. It's like being a big fish in a small pond. Then you go out and participate in the internet, and you're handing down information and advice. And I'm not trying to police any of that, but I think that it would be healthy if the community were to gain more organization and understand how to ask questions, how to deliver information, when to point people to another source. Just further define and organize it better. I think it's time, and I don't know if that's happening via podcast necessarily or with popular maker channels and social medias.
I think another way to distinguish it too is, and this is definitely a generalization, and there's a fair amount of give and take on both sides, but essentially, the people who approach it more as a hobby, or a hobby that they take very seriously, or a hobby that turns into a business, versus someone who is a true practitioner, went to school for this, for entertainment design or things like that. People who are truly in the industry, and people who just built a business around the industry because of their intense fandom and or peripheral skill of it as a hobby.
Well, there's pros and cons to having had a formal education, and there's pros and cons to having come up via hard knocks or with intense enthusiasm. And when I say formal education, I don't necessarily mean a school construct. It could have simply been as an apprenticeship or something, or being very organized about how you learned for you. I mean, everybody's a little bit different, but also creativity for pleasure and creativity for hire, and how things are conflated. Yeah. And again, I was going to press you because you teach elementary art.
Yes.
How do we get out of every student is an artist, and everybody should try to have a form of creative expression for themselves, but how do we bring that up into real life adulthood and continue to organize creativity for pleasure, creativity for money, and the people that you talked about specifically who came up doing creativity for pleasure and would like to transform it into doing creativity for money. Sure. That's, in my opinion, arguably where the formal education comes in the most.
Sure, yeah. Yeah,
it's not in the creativity aspect; it's in the business side.
Yeah. In my experience, if you're going into it for money, you're gonna have a very hard time. Yep. What you want to do is just do it for your own passion, and if you're truly passionate about it and doing good work, eventually people are just gonna ask you to buy it or ask to hire you. Right. If you're building stuff to sell, that's a much harder pitch. I'm not saying it can't work, and I'm not saying it's never going to work, but I think that's the why a lot of people get into it.
Right.
And in my opinion, that's not the best way to go about it, especially if you want to be happy and enjoy the process of doing something. And to go back what you said about everyone being an artist when they're young, growing up. Well, that first of all, that could get really we get really into that just from a couple perspectives. Of first of all, like, what does art mean to you? Everyone is an artist, depending on your definition of art. Right. But I think the way you are approaching it is more of a practical, hands-on, and being able to make a business out of it type of way, which is definitely not everybody.
No, my position is generally sort of two major things: either directly advising people on how to be more business-like as a creative person, because I think that's what the struggle is to be a productive business person as a creative, as personally as a creative person. To turn it into a business is a struggle. Or for anybody who still wants to enjoy their creativity, you could have more enjoyment by working more professionally, and that's a tough one. That's the one that is tricky, because the first thing people want to do is push back and say, well, I'm not trying to make money doing this, and I'm not trying to, it's about the journey. I'm enjoying being creative. And that is, if you genuinely feel that way, that's absolutely your right. But sometimes I don't think people have enough of an appreciation for adding science basically to their process, being scientific, building on something either you've discovered yourself or that you could go out and learn that someone else has discovered. You will have more fun, I think I could show, if you took a little bit out of the professional world's book and at your leisure, but at least be aware of it. And the problem that I have is people push back to that idea before you even give them an idea of what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
And that is something I'd like to tackle a little bit. Is like, look,
absolutely.
Look at professionals and take what works for you.
I think that's just something that I think you're absolutely right. But I think the trouble is I think a lot of people do hit that point where they get that realization, but at different times. You know, like it takes like some people, like it might take them, years of just making stuff and giving it away to realize, like, you know what, maybe this isn't the best way to do it. I should take a more scientific approach. Some people it's gradual, some people it's sudden, maybe a book that they read or something that they heard someone else say on a podcast or a YouTube video. They need that clicking point.
Right.
And also knowing where you come from, because there's a lot of young people who do this, who are starting when they're 12 doing it.
Sure.
And there's a lot of other people doing it, maybe as a second...
Coming to it in retirement or something.
Exactly, coming to it in retirement. And in a way, the 12-year-old and that person starting in retirement are kind of starting at the same spot.
Right. But it's the struggle you find in colleges and stuff. You have non-traditional students. You have kids coming in their late teens, early 20s to start their degree. Yeah. And then you have a 40-year-old. Yeah. And it's the same curriculum and they're in the same place, but there is a tangible difference between the way that they tackle that too, person to person. Yeah. So that's in a nutshell, right? What we're going to try and do here.
That is.
What does that even mean?
Exactly. Well, I think based off of that, a good first thing to talk about is one thing that was kind of the inspiration for this, and you actually mentioned it in one of your YouTube videos today about the whole, and it's in the name of our podcast, the DIY and how-to type of mentality versus truly like learning how to do techniques and using tools to accomplish whatever you want to do. Because I find that with a lot of my tutorials too, some people follow it very literally. And I thought I designed it in a way to where, like, I have one series on how to build a puppet that is 22 episodes long, because I broke it apart. Like, this is what you do the eyes, this is how you do the head, this is how you do the covering. And I broke it up. That could have been one long video. Yeah. I broke it up that way because I figured some people just need pieces of it
they don't
to design it however they want. But I've had some comments, and again, I love these people, and it's a green puppet.
We're going to need a really elegant way to constantly refer to the fact that we appreciate everybody watching our content.
Yeah, we do. We appreciate
and we don't
everybody.
Particularly hate any one individual. Sometimes something that you do is it brings to light something we wanted to talk about, so that becomes a catalyst. But I don't want to pin anybody to the wall.
Oh, of course. Yeah, me neither.
It may sound
but I'm going to mention and I've gotten this a couple times. People say, so again, it's a green puppet that we make, and they say, well, will it work if you do orange? It's like,
essentially, you're right. And that question basically is all over the internet. It's of course.
Well, what can I use this fabric instead? And generally, again, I'm very nice about it. I'm like, you can do whatever you want. Any color will work. You can use virtually any fabric you want, and encourage you to make it as different as you can. This was just one way to do it.
It's that rote versus theory education. I aggressively push theory, and again, you teach elementary school art. There's a time and a place, and a different person needs something to be rote right now. Yep. You could talk about the theory after they did it one time, rote. Yep. Some other people just want the theory out of the gate. Yeah, and when you're making content for the internet, for the public, the way that you do it is what goes out there, and it resonates with everybody that likes that. But then you're going to have people that, they're looking for, what do I do now? Yeah. Okay, I did that now. What do I do?
But on the other side too, and I used to recommend this, and I think I still would to the right person. And again, it's kind of the way that I work. For me, I kind of like to follow a tutorial exactly the first time.
That's what I'm thinking. Right?
Yep, I do it the first time, verbatim, and then it's like, now that I learned the rules, let me stretch a little bit. And I think a lot of people do that too.
Isn't that how elementary school works?
Yes,
I know in
that's
technology.
Exactly how it works,
I sub in tech class, and we get started cutting up manila folders with an X-Acto blade. They make a model kit rocket, and every one of those things that they do in the classroom with everybody else regimented
Yep.
They go home. Well, not a lot of them, but a few of them go home and it explodes. They want those tools, those materials, and they have all these different ideas in different directions that they want to take it, but they just had to do it the one time.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And a lot of us went to that. That was us in school. So that's what we are as adults,
So I think that's one of our goals is to, in the future content that I make, and even the stuff I've been making, is even though we're a lot of times I will label my video how to or do it yourself DIY, I'm really trying to teach a process and a mentality to making something rather than a step-by-step instruction.
Yeah. If you talk to anybody that makes anything, at some point, it's nonstop. When they're out in the world, they're noticing what's on the shelf. They're noticing what kind of merchants are out there on the internet, where the best places to get things are. They're making decisions like, man, I'm making stuff all the time. I'm running out all the time. Amazon Prime is a good idea, I feel like, because the more things I order through there, it's part of your life. It's a lifestyle thing. And people all the time want to know where these ideas come from and stuff. You're just participating all the time, thinking all the time, noticing what's for sale and how they charge for it. And this is the same kind of thing that you can get by the foot for like a few cents, and they're putting it in a bag. They're putting 4 feet of it in the bag and charging $25 for it when it's in this section of the store. And you're noticing those things, and you're giving yourself an edge. I don't know that we could make a how to be savvy maker video series. It would probably be highly popular, but it would be a lot of common sense.
This might be the video itself.
But that's you can't be looking for that. You need to start thinking. You need to monkey see, monkey do. That part of it, and just understand that part of it.
Again, that's why I kind of saying it takes a process too, and it's part of your upbringing and even the way that you learn. And I think that is the way I learn. I do tend to replicate something first, and then stretch my muscles, and then
I do want to see it. I guess I don't have to. If we're talking about how we differ, I don't necessarily have to do it first. I just need to see it done. The way you should. That's and a lot of us I think might be like that. You see the YouTube video, the tutorial video.
And I'd say that's probably more how I am now.
But then I don't go do it that way. I just needed to see it, and now I'll go do it my own way before I even put any energy.
And that's where I am now too. But I guess I was talking more about like when I first got started, or if I'm doing something completely brand new that I've never done. I try to emulate it as close as I can.
I suppose I started doing it myself the right way first too, right? And then you graduate to the next level. We may talk about that concept that's been floating around in my mind throughout that unorganized makerdom. A graduation of sorts. You get yourself wrapped. You gain an understanding of tools, where to get them, how they work, what you need and what you don't, and maybe that's something that you do early on. And we'll continue. I'll probably hit that word a lot. Graduate up to the next thing, and that's because it's hard to sell somebody, like I was talking about before, someone who makes for pleasure. Why would I do it the way a pro does? Why? Maybe I don't want to be faster. This is typical artist pushback, and I'm going to be fairly transparent about my problem with this mindset. I'm going to be. I really, it does bother me sometimes when people push back it's just a knee-jerk reaction. Well, I don't know that I want to be productive. I don't know that I want to go fast. I guess I enjoy the journey. Okay, but I think we all understand growing as a person, as a craftsman. So the graduation would be how I would talk about that.
And I would also argue
moved on.
A lot of that time. A lot of that too is not something personal that they're saying, is because a lot of, for better or for worse, a lot of people do just post something because they want to be told like that looks great. Sure. Because a lot of people, when they post something, they're just displaying something that they're happy with that they've done, rather than necessarily looking for a true critique. And sometimes they do actually say, "Oh, what do you guys think of this?" Asking for thoughts. And they say that even though that's not maybe necessarily completely true what they want. Is someone's unfiltered opinion on how to help them grow.
And I think that's
even if they heard me say that, they'd say, no, I do want that. I want to grow. But it can be bittersweet because, it's bittersweet.
It absolutely is. But that's part of one of the many things that I would say we should talk, like how to ask a good question, how to truthfully display your work. Find a venue. You need to be in the right venue. And a lot of times, if you just throw stuff out there, I personally take it as an opportunity. Like, look, this is what I done. I don't care that you asked or didn't ask for what I think about it. In my opinion, and to some people that I've talked to, some people say, a la Fox News, but some people say, putting it out there is asking for feedback. So we could talk about how to ask a good question, how to put it in the right venue, where if you want to hear good things, there are places to get good things only. And if you really want to get torn apart, I would actually like to provide that here a little bit, or in a sister program where we just, if you want an art school critique, if you want a design school critique that will be tough love, but if you did what was told or what was suggested, you would see measurable improvements quickly. I would love that, but you need to ask for what you want.
In the next episode, I think I'd like to talk about that experience that you had at school, and even like if you, because you were talking about how regimented it is, you had to come in with a plan and execute that.
Oh, my
plan.
education.
Yes, yeah. 'Cause I think that'd be a good example about a good starting point for when we do critiques. I'd love to have maybe a monthly or once every 2 month segment where people send us photos,
we'll put
of
together
stuff,
some of the best,
and then
stuff
we do honest, sincere critiques of it.
Right.
And I think them having a base point of like your background, and then they'll kind of learn my approach to critiquing just through the nature of it.
Okay.
It'll be a good starting point for people.
I think that's good, and I think we could choose, not that we would be inundated by more people asking for critique than we could possibly give, but I would be looking for items that inspire me to talk about something that I see a mistake or an issue that I see a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we were not trying to pin anybody to the wall.
Yeah.
You're giving us an opportunity to talk
And
about
if it's
something
good, we'll say it's good.
Yeah,
too.
but you're giving us an opportunity to talk about an issue that happens to so many people. And see, I can't necessarily pull those down out of my head of my own accord.
Yeah.
But if we're given an opportunity to say, look at this, so many people do this. This isn't a mistake that so many people do. But if it felt healthy to you to submit your work to something that helps you and everybody else grow, that's what we'd be asking to do. And I think has a lot of potential. And I don't see it all over the place.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, a creator might love a rough critique, but the rest of the viewers in that venue online just bury you because you were negative as far as they were concerned.
Yeah.
And we need a venue where it's like, this is what people understand is what we're doing here.
Yeah, because then the other argument is people are saying like, oh, but you're just being discouraging. You're making people not want to do it.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, we're trying to be encouraging, but people to do it correctly.
If you're an adult and you are creating something that is in the direction of something other adults make, and there's a how do I want to put it? A spectrum of quality there. If you're going to start making puppets, a lot of people make, for example, it's making puppets. It's kind of a kid thing. They can be loose and you throw it out there and somebody gives you like, oh, it's this or it's that. These are some areas that are lacking and stuff. And your immediate response, or other people watching that discussion online, is their response is, well, it's just a puppet, or everything must be given credence. There, you could go to the moon in terms of professional puppet quality. Mm-hmm. And so if you throw it out there as a puppet, in my opinion, you're out here in a sea of an entire spectrum that you fall short on the end of. So you may hear, if you want to improve, you could do this or you could do that. And I don't know that it should be considered discouraging, and I don't know that it should be considered to be.
It's never personal.
It's not personal, and we're not trying to make sure that your work gets better and better and better forevermore, and that you can become a professional at that at all. It's just a culture of, I believe strongly that the maker culture should be one and the same with getting better for you. Wherever you are, you should be interested in people who are helping you get better for you.
Yeah.
If you're willing to put in the time to get you to the point where you're showing us something, the next thing should be better by a factor of all the feedback that you got. It should just be understood. There's no reason not to. It would be a shame for people to just plateau, and everybody just plateaus because it's safe and
I completely agree. I think that's a good place to end this mini episode, because we are short on time today, and I know Chaz has to run. But I'm sure our future episodes will be much longer.
Right.
And getting into more depth in the topics, but we just want to do this brief introduction to start it off, and we look forward to the future of.
And we're open to ideas eventually when there's a few viewers if they have ideas. So.
Yeah, feel free to leave a comment, and definitely make sure to check out Chaz's YouTube page, which is Technically Magic Effects, or is it just Technically Magic?
Nope, Technically Magic Effects.
Technically Magic Effects on YouTube. And of course, mine is Adam Krutinger. Feel free to look that up if you want to see a little bit about our background and some of our work.
Right.
And we look forward to seeing you guys next time.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Bye.